The cowboy rode into the Apache camp at dusk, dust on his boots and just $12 in his pocket. His old mare had collapsed 3 days ago, and he needed a new horse to finish his cattle drive. The tribal chief watched him carefully, his eyes wise and tired. When the cowboy offered his money, the chief nodded silently and disappeared into his tent. Minutes later, he returned with a strong brown horse, but not alone. Behind him stood 2 young women, both carrying woven baskets, their eyes downcast. "The horse is $12, the chief said, "but the daughters come with it. They will serve and travel with you." The cowboy froze, unsure if this was a joke or an ancient custom. He looked at the girls, frightened, unsure, but proud. He knew refusing could be taken as an insult. With a slow nod, he accepted the reins, and the strange fate that came with them. The road was long and silent. The 2 sisters followed the cowboy's every step, one walking beside the horse, the other trailing behind. They spoke in whispers, sometimes singing in their native tongue under the rising moon. The cowboy tried to ignore them, focusing on the trail, but something in their calm strength unsettled him. They didn't act like servants, they carried themselves like protectors. One night, as he rested by the fire, he asked, "Why did your father send you?" The older sister lifted her eyes. "Because you saved his life once, and he never forgot." The cowboy stared at the flames, his mind flashing back to the battle years ago when he had rescued a wounded chief from soldiers. He hadn't known it was their father. Suddenly, the deal for a $12 horse didn't seem simple anymore. 3 days later, the trail turned deadly. A band of horse thieves ambushed their camp, circling in the night with torches and knives. The cowboy grabbed his rifle, but before he could fire, the sisters moved with fierce precision, one swinging a flaming branch, the other pulling a knife from her boot. Within minutes, the attackers fled into the desert, their shouts fading into darkness. The cowboy looked at them in awe. "You fight like warriors," he said. The younger sister smiled slightly. "Because we are. Father said you'd need us more than a horse." He realized then that the chief hadn't traded them, he had entrusted them. They weren't payment, they were protection, a living debt of honor. For the first time, the cowboy felt something shift in his chest, gratitude, and something deeper he couldn't name. Days later, a brutal storm hit the plains. Wind howled, rain lashed, and the horse stumbled in the mud. They found shelter under a rocky cliff, huddling close to keep warm. The younger sister's hands shook from cold. The cowboy pulled off his coat and wrapped it around both girls without a word. As lightning split the sky, the older sister whispered, "You could have left us." Many would have. He looked away. A man doesn't abandon those who saved his life. For the first time, the silence between them was warm. The storm raged outside, but something steady grew in the dark, a bond stronger than any bargain made with gold or words. When the sun rose, the land was calm again. The cowboy rode back toward the Apache lands, the 2 sisters beside him. He wanted to thank the chief, to tell him he now understood. But when they reached the camp, the chief smiled before he could speak. "You have returned," the chief said. "Did the horse serve you well?" The cowboy looked at the 2 women and nodded. "Better than I deserved." The chief laughed softly. Then the deal was fair. As the cowboy rode away, he realized that what he'd bought for $12 wasn't a horse. It was loyalty, friendship, and the lesson that the greatest treasures in the West couldn't be traded, only earned.